So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here. A bit stressy, but I'm really glad to be here and to share with you our experience maybe and more plans about creating European arboricultural standards. Well, not to having the grace of the native speaker, I decided to follow Wikipedia advice called KISS, keep it simple stupid, or stupid simple. And this is my structure. So I'll tell you something about why we decided to create another standards in arboriculture, what we already did and what our experience is, what is the structure for future, and then I'll tell you something about myself and our team. So you've noticed that there is quite a number of certifications in the world, in Europe, and we always assume that the people who hold these certificates are of the similar level, or that the know-how is, let's say, comparable. There are still some national certifications to make it more interesting, and when we just traveled around Europe, we learned quite with surprise that the information really differs, that the know-how is different even in the kernel, I would say, knowledge, and that the norms and standards and handbooks and everything you can buy contain sometimes similar but sometimes really different advices. So this makes quite, let's say, complex environment. And if you look at that from outside, you still feel that there is space to do things differently. And we really see that if arboriculture is not united and is not giving real out view on the, let's say, basic things we really do, other guys, we offer their services. This is not funny because 1 month ago I was asked to give advice to our road maintenance companies. They wanted to buy something like this, and it's quite scary sometimes. So we wanted to create some information pool. We invited people to come to some discussion groups and to come out with, let's say, a new outlook, contemporary outlook at existing know-how in arboriculture. We wanted to create something which is, let's say, general, but which doesn't overlook the national specifics, and our approach will be explained later. Maybe one of the topics why we did it, I'm not sure whether this is, let's say, politically correct now here, but we wanted to support people to move around Europe and to do proper job, and yeah, and that's it. So a year ago we asked for a grant, European Arboricultural Council. It supported our working group to work 1 year on the project of European tree pruning standards, so we started with pruning. And we met twice, and we created some texts which I'll tell you something more about. And based on this pretty successful discussion, because that was a pilot, because we tried whether we will more fight or discuss, it was pretty cool. So we decided to ask for Erasmus Plus project. We were successful. So next month we'll start our project and will run for 3 years. This is our group. This is the concept we created. And the plan is within the next 3 years to create 3 standards for planting trees, for pruning trees, and to use cabling bracing systems, which throughout Europe it's a very variable feeling about. So we would like just to create some basic for using it. So for the planting standard, we would like to concentrate not only on the technology of pruning, but on the prescriptions or advices on quality of trees. And of course, not only to stop by planting trees, but to say something about the afterlife, after the follow-up care. With the tree pruning, the main message probably is to follow the tree throughout life. Lots of literature comes from UK, lots of advices we take from you. So this is maybe the main message, because it's quite difficult to say what's the proper method to prune trees if we compare young trees with veterans. For the cabling bracing systems, as I said, it's not, let's say, a standard method throughout Europe to be used. On the other hand, again, the quality of work quite differs. This picture is real life. Maybe it shows why tree climbers shouldn't use drugs. And the result should be, let's say, short technical texts which give direct advice, no explanations, no textbooks really. And we decided to sort out these differences which each candidate is coming into the discussion group by creating national annexes which should describe not only the different approach in the practical care, but legislative connections and stuff like that. The reason is, if someone from Czech Republic wants to work in Germany, he can read the German annex, so not only be, let's say, certified in the basic knowledge, but to know what the specific approach in Germany is, which is pretty fine, I think. The texts, one of the basic thoughts was that the text must be free. We started with this principle in our country in 2012, and it was really successful because, you know, in principle, no one is able to pay the people who will create these standards properly. So it's always voluntary work, and now give it to some agency who will sell it. It's really not fair, I think. So we decided to do it just for free, which made possible to force these standards to other professions. Because if constructor or anyone else wants to access tree, just download it, nothing else. And it really makes quite sense. So we decided to follow this procedure, so the text will be freely available in English, in German, and the annexes will be always in English and the local language, which is it for. So, and what we already did. So if you are interested, just get connected to EAC or to myself personally, and you can get the first, let's say, concept of the tree pruning standard, which covers several areas. It's not finished yet, but it covers already a few areas. A very interesting discussion was about what has been mentioned here several times about the branch removal method, let's say, where we have some standard ones, plus minus standard ones, but you see that if we show this gallery, plus minus anything is possible to be done on tree. And the branch chopping method, which we devised English term for. So this is the practical show of this method. But you know, guys, these people are doing it for several hundred years, and it works. So tell them it's wrong. Yeah, so I just wanted to show you, and you are well aware of that, that there is lots of possible ways. The only thing we are pretty sure of, that the flush cutting is wrong. So this was good for me to know that we have at least some borderline. So this is wrong. What we devised as a basic thinking box, let's say, was this matrix, where we divided the standard pruning logic according the development stage of the tree, and let's say the reason or the part of crown the pruning should influence. So we described these four, which is pretty simplified, but for the pruning purposes is plus minus should work. 4 stages of tree development, from young tree to the young tree is characterized by temporary crown, semi-mature tree where the crown already starts at the height which is applicable for the setup, mature tree, and veteran tree, which is very good for teaching purposes, because we always struggled how to explain students that sometimes you should do something and in a few years something completely else. So this is pretty nice structure how to show the reason for these differences. And the other, let's say, logic follows which part of crown should we or we want to enter or to influence. So from structural pruning, which goes throughout the crown without changing the outline, through lateral crown reducing, for example, due to building or symmetrization pruning or stuff like that. The upper crown reduction was really heavily discussed, I think, because the difference between topping and upper crown reduction is still vague, let's say, so this is something we need to work more on. Then, of course, shaping, and pretty nice category, which we, again, within the discussion discovered maybe, is approach to mutilated trees, because if we describe only, let's say, regularly pruned trees, it's not real life. We need to have some advice even for trees which have been badly influenced in past or which went through some external damage like storms or stuff like that. And for each of these categories, you see that only some of these boxes are filled with the code. So for each of these codes, we defined the structure, what it should be about, and what the critical errors maybe in this category are. So, for example, for the young tree pruning, you will see that the main, let's say, logic is to rise the temporary crown into the place where it could be forever. Of course, only on places where it's applicable. So, in parks, you can have it down to the earth. But most trees which we deal with in cities, at least in our country, need to be upraised. So this is the main objective of the. Oh, sorry for this. I have to translate it to PowerPoint. It doesn't work properly. Then we defined what kind of branches and what kind of problems do we deal with. We define something about timing, optimal season. This is a very interesting question because this is very generic. In the next work, we will definitely need to go more deeper there because of the differences in species, and it has been presented here already. And the last part, which we tried to define, because not always it's possible to be here very clear, but we wanted to at least have it as a mental exercise, was to definition of critical errors for this area. As I told you, the discussion was very interesting. Sometimes we were all surprised what the other guys are doing, because everyone in the group was pretty sure that in our country it's the proper tree care. Yeah? So I was really very interested by the development of this text. We definitely came to gaps in knowledge. Some things we just assume. We have only short-term experience with some factors. So I'm pretty sure that the work will end up in some demand on research on other work. We definitely need species-specific approach, which is one of the main parts which we would like to address in next development. The stress trees were discussed here quite a lot, and I think this is area where we will be pushed into. So maybe the category of mutilated or highly stressed trees will be more and more important in future. We have sometimes problems to express what we really want to, because it's funny that out of the 12 people in the group, no one spoke English as a native language. So we communicated in language we don't know, which is pretty fine because we don't know trees either. So there is maybe some approximation there. The funny thing was that plus minus everyone came there with his or her standard in hand, and with the thought, okay, this is what we are used to. So we will somehow push the others to accept our standard. Which was really funny from the start, and you really feel that some nationalities maybe are more convinced that their standard is the best. But at the end of the day, we decided it's no go, because no one will run about or according to German standard or UK standard, whatever. No, we need something else. And plus minus, we try to create it. So I think that the idea of European standard has something for the future. And big discussion again with some of the candidates was about the length of the text, about the complexness. Because for someone, standard is just 5 pages full stop. For someone, we need more explanations, more leading to some professional ends or to some advice. So this is again something which we need to fight for. For your information, I know whether you are familiar with the German standards, with the ZTW Baumpflege. There the tree pruning part has 5 pages. And they are completely sure that everything is there. This standard has 30 pages and we are still not at the end. So you just see the differences in what each, let's say, work is aimed for. So now a few words about ourselves. The Arboricultural Academy is an NGO in the Czech Republic which was created in 2012 really. And it's a certification center for the national arboricultural program, which has 4 levels. The basic, let's say, work from the ground, then the high specialist for work in heights, platform and climber, and consultant. And starting in the years 2012, we got connected to our government agency for nature conservation, and we offered them to create the arboricultural standards for them, really, in cooperation with one of our universities. The work is plus minus finished last year, plus minus. The result is 12 issues for each part of arboriculture, and as I told you, the experience with that was very positive, because at the moment our standards are respected by the railway maintenance companies, road maintenance companies, by the managers of waterways. And maybe the main thought was, okay, here is it, use it. And the government agency just pushed a bit from the other side, because in our country the trees are generally protected. So even on your own tree, if you do some improper pruning, for example, you can be fined. So the situation is quite strong for the tree protection. By the way, this was one of the things why we wanted, or why we need these standards to be pretty strictly defined, because they are not used only as an advice for professionals to do proper job, but they can be as well used like restrictive tool to fine someone, or at least tell him not to do that again. Yep. As I already explained, we got the support for next 3 years project on the technical standards in tree work is the official name. There are 10 partner countries in this project. We were pretty restricted in the number because 10 is the very maximum. I think we were the only project supported with so many partners involved. So here are the countries. Sorry, no Union Jack, or how you call your flag. But don't be depressed, because we, as I explained, it's only 10 partners, and it's no way how to include other countries. But we really want to have influences from the whole Europe. So we just, at our first meeting, we will try to set up network of people who are interested to say something into these areas. We can send you if you are interested, the texts after every meeting, you can, by a written form, give us some advice back. We have some support for dissemination activities in each country, so you could be part of these activities, and at the end of the project there will be some conference, so I'm pretty sure that if you are interested, any one of you, you can be part of this process. Here is my address, or the booth of EAC is in the corridor, so you can get more information there. Thank you very much.